welcome to Alive in Writing, a podcast on troubleshooting life as a writer.
I'm Shatona Habig.
I'm April Heyman.
And I'm C.R. Rowanson. We're here.
We're alive.
And we're writing.
Okay, so today is all about one of my favorite topics. This is brainstorming, specifically brainstorming with others, which I'm obviously very excited about because brainstorming is my favorite way to procrastinate from actually writing anything.
Well, it is a fun way to do it.
So the first question we should probably address is why you should brainstorm. So, what do you think?
Well, I would say you need to brainstorm with others because others have different experiences than you do, and they can they're going to interject things into the possibilities that you've never thought of, and that will also trigger new ideas from yourself.
I think it's easier to brainstorm with people because I sometimes don't feel smart enough to come up with the storyline on my own, so I just steal their ideas.
And it's allowed.
It's allowed.
It's like this.
It makes it easier for me.
Smorgasbord. They offer this to you, and you just reel it in.
And the thing is, they allow you to do it. That's even better.
So that goes right into another concern that I've actually heard a lot from people, especially early on. People wonder a lot, is this a good idea? Won't people steal my ideas? Well, according to these two, they will, like thieves and bandits in the night.
Exactly, and we're okay with that.
Yeah, well, and yet, on the other hand, as someone who helps others with brainstorming, I have no problem with them taking my ideas because my ideas are my ideas for their stuff.
That's true.
I think that's kind of the way you need to approach this, is that you are there to help them. Those ideas you generate are not yours unless you explicitly say, I mean, if you're brainstorming well with people, you'll know what it is they are and are not going to take. And in the end, your stories would be different anyway. So it's really a non-issue.
It is.
And I would also like to say that if something pops up in the brainstorming session and the brainstorming session is for someone else and you really, really love the idea, ask them if you can keep it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, most people are going to, if they're not going to use it themselves and they came up with it, they're going to be like, yes, take it. I want to see that happen.
And let's face it, the more you do this, the more overwhelmed with ideas you are going to become.
Absolutely.
There's 3 of us in this room, and I don't think a single one of us is ever going to get to all of our ideas.
No.
I don't think there's any way to do it.
Not possible.
No.
I'm not going to live that long. That's why I go to the gym, but it's not going to help.
And the other thing I would say about this is it's just try not to worry about it too much. I know it may sound contradictory. If any of you have worked with me as far as proofreading and giving me feedback, I require people to sign non-disclosure agreements. Well, that's not because I don't trust the people I'm working with. It's because I have done a lot of looking into things, and for me, it seems like a sound legal practice to protect me and my readers.
Yes.
It's not because I'm worried about people stealing my ideas. If they do, I can make new ones. It's fine.
Right. No, it does protect, it actually protects the other person as much as you. You cannot, you can't make foundless accusations when you've got something in place.
Right, but the point there is don't worry about people stealing your ideas. In fact, next week we're going to be doing a very special episode because I need help and they are going to brainstorm with me.
And it's going to be fun because brainstorming with Clark is like the coolest thing ever.
Well, you know, but the point is they're going to be helping me this time. I usually help them a lot. Not that I'm holding it against them or anything.
No, not at all. No.
Zero grudge. So, Shatona, who should people brainstorm with?
I honestly think you need a kind of the whole multitude of counselors thing. You need to brainstorm with people who are like you and who write similar things, but you also need to brainstorm with people who don't write like you. They think in a totally different way. Clark and I write about almost as opposite as you can get.
Pretty.
But when I needed help trying to figure out why something wasn't funny in my book Christmas Stockings, it was amusing, but not like it was supposed to be. And I gave it to Clark, and he goes, well, I feel sorry for the guy.
And at the same time, having somebody who is not desensitized to all of the horror stuff makes it a little easier to know how normal people react.
He just called me normal.
Ish. Don't get too excited. The other thing that's worth bringing up here is while lots of different people can be very helpful with brainstorming, there's also a lot of different tools out there that you can use to brainstorm.
Yeah.
So what we've been talking about is kind of like one-on-one sessions or group sessions, which is what we're going to do next week. But there's also lots of ways you can do it. You can have scheduled or written out interviews. You can do mind maps. You can have outlines. Like, it's all about finding what works for you.
And I recommend mixing it up, because if you stick with one section, your brain tends to go toward the routine and the formula. So I do recommend mixing it up.
So when you say mixing it up, what do you mean?
Well, if you create this is my brainstorming routine, I'm going to do this worksheet, I'm going to read this book, I'm going to listen to that thing, and then I'm going to write it all down. If you do that every single time, your stuff will start to become rote. You want something that sparks new creativity. So by saying this time I'm going to talk with someone over Messenger on Facebook, and next time I'm going to work on that workbook, and if you change it up and you don't just have this little brainstorm routine, I think it helps spark different creativity.
That's a good point. So April, how do you do brainstorming when it's not with us?
Oh, that's a good point. Okay, thank you.
Or do you? No, just kidding.
No, I have a really large whiteboard, room-sized whiteboard in my office. And I do a lot of my brainstorming when I'm by myself and I'm trying to either figure out a plot line or maybe a scene and trying to work things out. I'll put it on my big whiteboard. I also bounce ideas off my husband. He sits there and he will occasionally give me a good pointer or a tip or something. Occasionally. I also do a lot of brainstorming with my clients because I do work outside of writing. And we usually do that because I work from home. So I do a lot of networking. So we use Skype or we use GoToMeeting or something like that. We follow a very similar process where I'll ask questions and I'll try to dig down to exactly what they want. And then just going back and forth, trying to figure out what it is that their training needs are, and then filling in those gaps. And then we continuously have those brainstorming sessions throughout the project. So brainstorming isn't just a one-time deal.
Or just a writing thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's not just a writing thing. You can use it in any kind of situation, including engineering, oddly enough.
Oh, yes.
And it's a good way to get a lot of ideas really fast. I would suggest that we do brainstorming sessions. They can take hours. But if you're trying to get a lot of ideas really fast, the best way to do it is to get a group of people, anywhere between 6 and 10, and give them 20 minutes on a single question and see what everyone pops up. And then you can move forward with that.
Something I really want to know is, what is the biggest piece of advice you guys can give our listener about effectively brainstorming? I know one of the things that I see a lot, both in myself and working with other people, is it's really easy to get stuck on one specific idea or one specific problem. Just a little while ago, Shatona and we were brainstorming a new magic system for her, and we kept getting stuck on the details. We would want to figure out how certain things would work, specifically how the pieces would flow together to make something happen, and we had to keep pulling ourselves back in order to get a broader perspective. And then we would get stuck on specific ideas. And
yep.
It's good because then you can, when you find things you like, you really want to follow those, but you can't follow them too far. Otherwise, you're not really exploring all of your options. I don't know. That's one thing that I notice.
I notice that when I'm talking with people and we're getting into a brainstorming session, you can almost see you come up with an idea and you can tell they don't necessarily like it. Not that they think it's a bad idea, but it's not working for them. But they won't just go, that's not where I was going. Can we try, where else can we go with this? Because that's not what I'm trying to go for. I need XYZ. They'll keep listening and you can see them changing their minds when it wasn't what they wanted. I've seen that happen a lot. You can't let You have to be open to new ideas you hadn't planned.
It sounds like you're saying you need to make sure you're clear on what it is you want.
Well, yes, but also people are going to come up with things that are really cool and really great, and you need to be open to them. But sometimes people have a hard time saying, yeah, I love that. That's awesome. That's not where I was going with this story. And you need to be able to do both. Be open and say no.
Exploding antlions in Peru are fascinating, but we're talking about magic, Shatona.
But sand and magic and ants, they all go together.
One thing that I do is I make sure that I go in with a plan, either a list of questions or a list of topics, and I know how much time it's going to take. So with clients, it's usually about an hour, and I make sure that we stay on topic. And depending on how many things that we have to talk about, I'll make sure that we spend so much time on each section of the plan.
So I have a question for you, April. Do you think it actually helps to have a time constraint on your brainstorming?
I think it does. And the reason it does is it focuses the people's attention on what's really important. If they know they only have me for so long, then they want to get the most out of the session. And I do too, because a lot of the people I work with are subject matter experts. These are people who are really, really busy. And so getting them on the phone in the first place can be quite the challenge. So I know that if I only have an hour to spend with them, I want to get the most out of that hour as I possibly can.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. I know for us, we usually just get together and then talk for hours and hours and realize that we have not been taking notes.
But it's so much fun.
It's so much fun. Why wouldn't we do that?
My favorite way to procrastinate.
Right? But for but for us, when we're getting together, we're brainstorming, we're working, we're having fun. But it is also, because we're buddies, it's also kind of a
social hour?
Yeah, I wanted to say fellowshipping, and that just sounds all wrong.
Oh boy.
I'm like, wait a minute, where's the potluck?
And actually that brings us to our spotlight.
Okay, yeah, today's spotlight, we have a download for you. It's really cool. It is 5 questions to get your brainstorming. So it's a great little resource. You can just download, plug in your email for our newsletter, and it'll give you the download, and you will get that brain going with yourself or with another.
Sweet. So what else do we really want to cover about brainstorming? Because I really like brainstorming, but I don't know. What else do we want to tell our listeners?
I want to point out that the best part of our brainstorming team is the fact that we have Clark, who likes to ask lots of questions.
I ask lots of questions. It can be either really annoying or really, really helpful. I like to go with helpful because that's how I keep my ego up.
I'm sorry, I'm dying watching April over here.
Okay,
So
then.
Today's episode is a little more flexible than usual.
So
But
guys,
that's brainstorming for you.
yes, that is.
We're brainstorming the episode, and we didn't even know it.
So did you ever have a bad brainstorming session? And if so, what did that look like, and how would you have fixed it if you could?
Yes. Okay. So
It wasn't with us though.
No,
No, of course not.
it
No,
wasn't.
never.
Of course not. No. This is actually where I started realizing the problem of people getting too focused on one thing. I was on the writing excuses cruise, and because writing is my crack, don't do drugs, I was trying to help some people develop their magic for their stories. And I was working with a couple people. They would have a really good scene, a really good picture in their head of something awesome and powerful, and that's what they had. And I would talk with them for sometimes up to 30 minutes, and I could not get them to branch out beyond that scene. So it was almost to the point where I don't even know if it was really brainstorming, because we weren't generating new ideas, and all the ideas that I was lobbing at them, they just weren't taking a swing at any of them.
That sounds like a really horrible brainstorming session, actually.
That sounds terrifying.
I mean, I got to know them, and it was just a spontaneous thing, so it was still good, but it wasn't definitely a very useful brainstorming session.
Yeah, not very productive.
Or maybe it was. I don't know. What about you guys?
I'm trying to think. Usually the worst ones for me are usually when I'm by myself. I tend to like to bounce ideas off of people.
Yes.
And so that actually is more helpful for me than sitting here with my whiteboard trying to come up with ideas. I don't feel very creative when I do it that way, unfortunately.
You know what? I did think of a really bad brainstorming session, and it was by myself, and I fixed it by myself. I have trained myself to plot and brainstorm with my audio recorder, and I was working one night, and everything I was doing, I didn't like it. It was there. I knew what I was going to do, but how I was doing, I didn't like. And I finally got up, folded my stuff up, got in the car, started driving home. It's a minute and a half from where I was working to home. And by the time I got home, I had talked to myself all the way there. By the time I got home, I had it all figured out.
She talks to herself a lot.
I do.
Yeah, even when we're in the room.
Yes, I do.
And we still love her, so.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's amazing. I really owe these people. I'll pay you guys after the...
Yes. Small, non-consecutive bills.
Yes, please.
Something else that I want to mention, I had been messing with this in my head for a while. When I brainstorm, it doesn't really matter what it's on. I like to try and identify what I call the pillars. These are core areas that I want to develop my ideas off of. This is what I've started doing whenever I do magic systems with Shatona, April, or anybody. The main questions that I think you need to start with, the main pillars, are cool effects for your magic, cool themes or mediums or materials for your magic, or just something that's just flat out really cool.
Hats.
Right.
Cool
really
hats.
cool hats. It's a really cool hat. And if you get this joke, I will buy you a drink sometime.
Oh, do we count? Oh.
No, we don't count, unfortunately.
We never
So
count.
if you're actually involved with the podcast, nothing applies to you.
Oh, fine, I quit.
So the point is, try and identify what your pillars are whenever you're starting a brainstorming session. It kind of goes into what April was talking about with planning ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on the worksheet.
Yes.
We do. It's on the worksheet.
So just in case you needed a little extra, it's on there. Anyway, sorry, Clark, I had to throw that in.
Oh, no, that's good. I was pretty much done. See, everything we say is not random and mundane. Aha.
Just most.
Well, yeah, that's how brainstorming goes.
Right. But those pillars helped me when we were brainstorming. They helped me because my brain was trying to come up with, it's a totally different way of planning for me. I haven't done this before. I haven't tried to create a system like this before. And so it was really difficult for my brain to try to attempt it. So having those pillars going, okay, right now we are working on just really, what totally crazy cool stuff could you do? Okay, that was hard, but it was not as hard as going, what do you want your magic system to look like?
Well, and what can be really hard is not making them connected. Because when you're doing early brainstorming with anything, everything doesn't have to fit together yet. That's the point of the brainstorming.
Right, yeah. And my brain was trying to connect everything.
Yeah, and we were getting stuck in the details. And we kept having to say, all right, that's good. Good, come away from that one.
And that's why you need someone like Clark who can redirect. April and Clark are both very good at redirecting, and I am not.
The cattle prod helps.
Yes.
So that
But
brings...
Denny's doesn't allow it.
Not since that one time.
Yeah, right.
So that brings us to the end of our episode. Thank you two very much. So go ahead, click the link in the comments below, hop on over to our website, join up, and you will be able to download our little worksheet that we've got for you. It's 5 questions to get your brainstorming.
God, we're funny. Anyway, this has been Alive and Writing. Sometimes that's all you've got, but it's all you really need. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.